All right, let's switch gears now to the U.S. men's national team because we're approaching May, which means we're approaching summer, believe it or not. The year's going by really fast, and it's already going by fast, and we're going to be a year out from the World Cup, which means that it is the perfect time if some of these players want to make a move thinking of being on that U.S. men's national team World Cup roster in 2026. Good thing we have our experts here to give them some advice. Gladly, I will stay out of it. But who will make a move? Who will have to stay to make their campaign as strong as possible here with Mauricio Pochettino and company? Case, I'm going to start with you here. Let's start with Matt Turner.
Yeah, I think it's no big surprise that Matt needs to move to further his career. The tricky part for Matt is at his age and what he's done in Europe, what does that look for him financially? So it's tough to say, do I give up this money to go find some place that I won't make as much, but I'll play regularly? Is that the right time for him? I think if he wants to be the starter in the World Cup, right now he's getting the benefit of the doubt because nobody's pushing him. If somebody emerges like he emerged out of nowhere to get that spot, he needs to be playing regularly somewhere to keep that starting position.
I don't know what the market looks like for a Matt Turner, if that's lower Premier League, if there is an opportunity for him in the Championship. It's not going to be in La Liga, it probably won't be in the Bundesliga, and it won't be in Serie A. They've not heard of this guy because he's not played for the better part of 2 years.
Yeah.
I never advocate for players to leave Europe and come back to Major League Soccer, but in this instance, with this goalkeeper, I think he may need to. I think he's in serious risk of not playing club football regularly and affecting his national team standing. And Mauricio Pochettino's already said, I don't care where you play. The way he took the position from Zach Steffen, that could honestly be the way that Zach Steffen or somebody else takes the position from Matt Turner. So in this case, I would advocate for a move, either Championship or Major League Soccer, for the goalkeeper. This goalkeeper, you got to play.
Prioritize the minutes here, at least for Matt Turner. Is that the case? Herc, I'll start with you with Josh Sargent.
I think Josh Sargent's got to move. I feel he's outgrown the Championship.
Well,
I mean, how many years can you be when you're healthy?
He has a good problem. He has a good problem.
When you're healthy, I don't think there's any debate that he can score goals. He's done it in Norwich twofold. Already a couple seasons. If he's healthy, he's scoring in loads. I'd love to see him go to the Premier League.
Or back to Germany. He has a name in Germany.
Does he?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it was when he was at Werder Bremen, they got relegated. They had the opportunity to move him on. He had the opportunity to go to the Premier League, which I thought was maybe a little bit too early for him. I didn't have a problem with him staying at Werder Bremen, getting the team back promoted at his age, and then proving himself at the top level. But it happened almost in reverse.
Yeah.
He went to the Premier League. They got relegated, and now he's proven himself in the Championship. What that move looks like for me is potentially a team that just got promoted. That team that's kind of.
I like that. What about Leeds? Daniel Farke was his coach.
My only worry is.
What's the worry here?
My worry is that the Americans that came to Leeds.
Ooh, is that bridge already burned there?
It may have been. Now I know there's American ownership, but I don't know if the fans would be super excited about it.
Right. Brendan Aarons improved.
He helped. He 100%.
But I understand what you're saying. I think that's a fair assessment. Jesse Marsh, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, those players, they didn't shower themselves, in glory while they were there. Maybe this could be a good redemption song for the American players who do make that step up.
But the hard part for me is, do you go in and you're already having to fight a perception, and you're not given the benefit of the doubt. So I think Leeds might be a stretch.
He's outgrown the Championship for my money.
Yeah, and like I said, a good problem that he has, and he's been available, which we know has been a problem in a very recent past. But he came back and hit the ground running.
That's the key. He has to stay fit.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the one question mark that if somebody comes to the Premier League, they have a limited amount of dollars to spend, and they're worried that somebody might not be able to play week in and week out.
Yeah, and that's not what you want, especially when you're building for such a short tournament at the end of the day. Johnny Cardoso, too, has been interesting as of late for Real Betis, showing up, scoring goals. Case, should he move or should he stay?
I personally like the situations he's at Betis right now. I like where they are in the league. I like that he is a player that gets gets, like a yellow card accumulation suspension and is straight back into the team as soon as he's available. I know that Spurs have a first right of refusal on him, that they can buy him for 25 million, something like that. Spurs is in a interesting position right now. Do you want to go from knowing you're week in and week out on a team up at the upper part of the table and go to a Spurs that's in a complete rebuilding cycle the year before a World Cup? Could be difficult.
There are two sides of Johnny Cardoso. There's the side that many U.S. men's national team fans see of this player, that he's got an opportunity with the U.S. men's national team and he's not taking advantage of those opportunities. But then there's the side, like you mentioned, big goals in big games.
But he's as a defensive midfielder.
As a defensive midfielder and making a name for himself in a system with Pellegrini that I think is catered for him. If you look at the statistical leaders in his position in La Liga, Johnny's up there. Interceptions, he's one of the highest in La Liga. I wouldn't move if I'm Johnny Cardoso right now. You just establish yourself as a very good player for the second season running.
And how old is Johnny now?
I believe he's like 23, 24.
Yeah, so he's got plenty of time.
I think this is a position where you stay, you're in a good system, a good setup, and the unknown of Spurs kind of scares me.
I mean, your club coach is Manuel Pellegrini, and you go to U.S. men's national team, and your coach is Mauricio Pochettino. I mean, talk about high level here.
And you're Brazilian?
For Johnny Cardoso. I know, right? Casual. It's in his veins.
There you go.
So maybe that will be the move there, or the not move here for Johnny Cardoso. On to Antonee Robinson, U.S. Soccer Player of the Year. It's up there. Herc, should he stay or should he go?
This is a no-brainer. You got to go. Fulham has been a great landing spot for many Americans. He's proven his worth. He was with them in the championship, got promoted with them, and
he went down with them and then stayed and really improved himself.
Something clicked with Antonee Robinson over the course of the last 18 months, 2 years. For the past 3 years, he's been one of the most consistent, if not most consistent American player with the national team. But for Fulham, already statistical year, career year in terms of statistics, assist down that left-hand side. And you got a team like Liverpool who's sniffing around you. They're talking about crazy money, 40 to 50 million. I don't think there's any way that he stays. You've got people in England who have spoken very well to you about Anthony. I don't see how he stays.
Yeah, Anthony, I think over the last couple of years, I've talked with several people who are kind of saying that he has consistently been probably the best left back in the Premier League, not just, in smaller clubs in the Premier League. So I think at his age, this is the time to move. If he doesn't move now to a big club and see if he can make it at that level, at the conditions that come. It's different when you're playing for Fulham than when you're playing for Liverpool. It's different when you're playing for Bournemouth and then you make the move to Man City. So this is the time where I think he's proven himself. And can he then prove himself at that next level? Because I think then the problem is you get past that window of age where they go, how long are we going to have you for? I think he's at that sweet spot where this is the point. He moves now where he probably doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you were talking about what we've seen from Antonee Robinson, especially as of late in Fulham. It seems like he's developed a sort of grit here, and now it's time to put that.
Well, what he's had is he's had that grit. What he didn't have was the finished product.
Yeah.
And so I think where he really, really worked is now when he makes an overlap. Now when you feed him the ball, the service is going to come. That was intermittent. He's worked really hard at that. He's had the engine, he's had the fight, he's had the tenacity, and now he's got the finished product.
Yeah, we'll see if he'll be able to put that to the test should he make this move. On to Timothy Weah now, Herc.
He's got to go. Timothy Weah, for the national team, he's been somewhat consistent, somewhat reliable. Obviously he's had his mishaps like Copa America, but this is a player that national team fans and the coach, whoever it was, have counted on this player. Well, he wasn't consistent at PSG. He wasn't consistent when he was in Scotland. He wasn't consistently playing all the time or in a lockdown position while he was at Lille in France. He was on the right or he was on the left. He wasn't just a guy that you can staple in and this is the guy who's going to be here week in, week out. And it's not been the case, although he's had everywhere he's been very good moments. He needs to find a home. He needs to find somewhere where he could be the guy, hopefully not in a position that's a right back or a left back, hopefully as a winger. Or I think he's got to go.
Or he has to make the decision that
he's a right back.
I'm a right back, or I'm a left back, because I mean he's kind of caught in the middle right now. He's not consistently playing well enough as a winger, so then they're saying, well, can you do us a job because somebody's injured or somebody's doing this back here?
And he does so well. This year he's done so well scoring goals, Case, but he's not locked down that position.
Right. So I think it's either a case you go a little bit smaller club, see if you can get week in and week out, or maybe it's a position change that you really have to work on to. And look, we've seen that. I mean, look at someone like DeMarcus Beasley.
Yeah.
You know, winger for a couple World Cups, and then next thing you know, he's an outside back. Maybe you lose that little step, or it just or maybe there's somebody in that position ahead of you that says, okay, we'll take you this, but we really need you on the pitch.
Right.
Can you do this role for us? So yeah, I'd like to see Timmy just find a situation where this is your position and lock it down, like you said. Yep.
Yeah. And it's a good look from Mauricio Pochettino, too. He'll say, maybe I can use him like I didn't think I could at the end of the day.
Right. But he has to do it for club
Timothy
first.
Weah as well. Exactly.
It's really difficult to do that at the national team level for a World Cup and say, hey, I know we've got some positions and you're one of our better players. I'm going to change you completely in a different position.
Yeah.
It would be great to be able to say, you've played a season at left back, at right back, and I really like the progression from that. Now I see you in that position with the national team.
Yeah. All right, on to our last one. Case, I'll start with you on this one. Malik Tillman.
I'd like him to stay.
Okay.
Personally. I think he's had a great year, but it's kind of the 1 year. I'd like to see him establish that a little bit longer. And, obviously, PSV is a great club, and everyone in the Dutch league is always looking to make that next step to the big four. But I think sometimes if you do it too early, or you do it to a club size, I'm hearing, sniffs that maybe Chelsea are interested, and then you end up in that black hole of Chelsea. If it was Brighton or Bournemouth or somebody, then I would be a little bit more like, okay.
Minutes.
Yes. And then say, go prove it in the Premier League, then make the move to a Chelsea.
Yep.
All right. I know Case says stay. I think Malik's got to go. I don't think this is a one-season wonder. We saw it when he went to Scotland with Rangers. He absolutely killed it.
Yep.
And then in European football, well. And then when you go from Rangers and you go to a team like where he's at PSV, most people didn't give Malik a chance.
Yeah.
Double-digit goals, double-digit assists,
They
and
can't
all
live without him
comps.
now.
And now this season is on pace to do it again. And if you watch his Champions League performances, he had a ridiculous game against Girona, albeit, yes, this Girona, but still Champions League dropping golazos.
Look, I would love to see him go to a Girona. I mean,
if they're still La Liga.
I was going to say, maybe not this.
But what I'm saying is, I think he's outgrown this current situation. And I do feel like, and we see it with Santi Jimenez, so he had his good times at Feyenoord. You got to get out while you can, and you got to make the most of it. I think he's ready to go.
This would be a great time to have like a luggage sponsor or something to be able to promote it here for these four guys. Only two then recommended. Yeah, exactly. But we don't. We do want to promote something else though. ESPN FC available daily on ESPN+.